All right, y'all, welcome back. Welcome back. It is episode 16 of Third and Manageable, the weekly podcast for UGA and Atlanta sports enthusiasts. And I know that there are many because we saw some good numbers last week on the YouTube channel. Thank you for watching if you did, or listening to us in podcast form. Again, I say it every week. It's a thrill to be able to do something like this. So if you spend any time with us, I greatly appreciate it. I think we saw that rise in numbers on YouTube last week because we titled the episode "Baseball is Dumb." You may remember that because Georgia had just been booted from the NCAA tournament and the Braves were stinking up the joint over there at Truist Park. So we made that the title of episode 15, "Baseball is Dumb." And I can only imagine that maybe a couple of people stumbled upon that and were like, you know what, baseball is dumb. Let's see what this guy has to say about it. And then maybe were surprised when we actually spent a good amount of time last week talking about baseball. We will not do that this week. We will save the little bit of baseball talk for the end of the episode. Want to solely focus on college football right up front here and spend the majority of our time this week talking about college football and the week 0 and week 1 matchups that we are all super excited about. Before we get to that, I'll say a couple of things. Connect with me. Questions, comments, concerns on X at Walker Country, on Instagram at Walker Power 10, and again on YouTube at Sea&Sky Productions. That's SEA and sign Sky Productions. And in podcast form, wherever you find your podcasts, just look for the red and black microphone. Episode 16 is the Kirby Smart edition. You may remember back in the late 90s, or you may have seen video of this on social media if you weren't around in the late 90s. That coach up in Athens, he was playing some pretty good ball himself between the hedges back in the day. And I was a student in the late 90s when Kirby Smart was on the football team. No, I did not meet Kirby Smart. No, I do not know him. We were just students there at the same time. And I can say firsthand that those were some really, really fun times in the late 90s in Athens, Georgia. Not as many wins on the football field as we get nowadays, but still a good time was had by most, I think. So episode 16, I'm wearing the t-shirt. That coach up in Athens got them boys playing pretty good ball. That is a song by country singer Ray Fulcher. That we used to play all the time when I worked in country radio on WNGC in Athens. Love You Son, Go Dogs was the name of the song. And I loved it so much that I bought the t-shirt. So in honor of Coach Kirby Smart and him wearing the number 16 when he played for the Dogs, this is a college football heavy episode of Third and Manageable. And let me just start with some more kickoff times before we really try to break down some of these week 1 games. About a month ago, or maybe like 3 weeks ago, we got a batch of kickoff times, and we found out that Georgia was going to open the season against Marshall between the hedges at 3:30. Georgia's going to play Austin Peay the next week, also at 3:30. Let's go Peay! And then the week 3 matchup against the lousy stinking Hillbillies there in Knoxville, also going to be, you guessed it, 3:30. So we speculated then that there was now room on the schedule for several night games. We imagined that Alabama and Texas would be games that would be played at night and at Sanford Stadium. We've been looking forward to this home schedule for years now because it's just marquee matchup after marquee matchup. And one of those kickoff times was delivered yesterday. Georgia and Alabama, that will be a 7:30 p.m. game between the hedges. I expect an atmosphere like maybe we've never seen in Athens on September 27th when the Alabama Crimson Tide come to town. They have not been to Athens in a long, long time. I'm thinking the last time was back in the Coach Mark Richt days when Alabama came here and just bludgeoned Georgia in the rain. There's also, of course, the famous blackout game that didn't go well for the Dogs. This time it is, my buddy Logan on X yesterday called it a no excuses game. It is a show me game because despite all of the success that the Georgia Bulldog football program has had over the last 8 years or so, and the 2 national championships and the SEC championships and all of the SEC championship game appearances, college football playoff last year, Orange Bowl champions, despite all of that, Alabama has had Georgia's number, has continued to have Georgia's number. The one big win that Georgia had over Alabama, of course, being the national championship game in 2021 in Indianapolis. But other than that, several times the Tide have gotten us. And every time I talk to an Alabama fan, I have to say, well, you guys have gotten us a lot more than we've gotten you. And that continues to be true. Georgia thought they had a really good chance to go into Tuscaloosa last year and win. And just really got way behind early in that game and almost pulled it out in the end. But at the end of the day, could not recover from that very large deficit. And it's just another win for the Tide. And that one hurt last year because we thought, hey, new coach, Nick Saban's retired. Now it's our turn. This time it's got to be our turn. I think Georgia has to win against Alabama in late September, a 7:30 game at home. I think it's going to be the best home environment we've ever seen. I know the people that plan this stuff are already talking about the light show and the music, and I know the fans will be all lubricated, and this is going to be an epic day in Athens, Georgia, and I think at the end of it, we will be very excited that Georgia has defeated Alabama. If Georgia could go undefeated in September, that would be huge. You expect it's going to be a win against Marshall. You expect to beat Austin Peay. Tennessee, you never expect to go to Neyland Stadium and win, but without Nico, that game is a lot less stressful in my mind. And then a week off before you play Alabama. If Georgia's 4-0 at the end of September, that's going to be a good sign for us moving forward. The week 1 opponent, as we promised, as we teased last week and teased a few minutes ago, week 1 matchups in college football. Oh man, Talkin season is here, and we've got some marquee games week 1, and even a really good game week 0 that we'll start with. But last year, I don't remember there being that many top tier games on Labor Day weekend. We were all really focused on the game against Clemson at the Benz, so maybe I'm not remembering that correctly, but I don't remember there being this many top tier games to start the season last year. So this is going to set the tone for the college football season. Let's get into it. Week 0, Iowa State versus Kansas State in Dublin. I have started to become a big fan of the Dublin game, and I didn't know what to think of it in the beginning. I was like, the rest of you were probably saying the same thing. Why are we playing a college football game in Dublin, Ireland? And especially when it doesn't involve Notre Dame. But this game has become now an early season tradition, and I really enjoy it. And I will be sitting down with some chips and snacks and maybe still a cup of coffee, but whatever, at noon, I should say, on August 23rd, week 0, Iowa State versus Kansas State. And we're at this point in college football, in the college football landscape, where I have a tough time now remembering what team is in what conference. I was actually proud of myself. I didn't even have to look it up to remember that Iowa State and Kansas State are both in the Big 12. And then I did have to look this up because sometimes these early season games that involve teams that are in the same conference, you've seen this, right? They end up not counting as conference games for some reason. The ACC has done this a few times recently, but we did a quick fact check, and we did find out that this is a conference game, Iowa State and Kansas State, week 0. So that's going to be a great matchup. Both of these teams are going to be ranked when this thing gets started, and the Big 12 is so wide open. And let's remember that an auto bid is on the line for the Big 12 conference champion. Last year, that was Arizona State. But if you remember last year, we went into the final week of the season having no idea who was going to play for the Big 12 championship. There were like 6 or 7 teams that still had a shot at making the Big 12 championship game in the final week of the season. It's going to be a similar situation this year. It's going to be just as chaotic. Iowa State and Kansas State both have a really good chance to win this conference, as does BYU, who had a really good team last year until it kind of went off the rails right at the end. But they're returning a lot. BYU is going to be good this year. Texas Tech, we'll see. They went out and spent a lot of money in the portal, and I think signed like the #1 portal class in the country. So Texas Tech is obviously all in on this year. The Red Raiders. And then there's also Coach Prime still sitting over there. How will that Colorado team look without Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders? So intriguing conference, and we'll get a little glimpse of what is going to go down in the Big 12 right there, week 0. There's like 3 other games week 0. Obviously, we'll watch them because we're college football degenerates, but other than Stanford versus Hawaii, there's not any that really stand out. But week 1, oh yeah, there are some big time matchups. Talk about a standout game right off the jump. Noon, week 1, August 30th, Ohio State versus Texas. It's a rematch of the semifinal game from last year, the semifinal playoff game, which the score doesn't really reflect how good of a game that was because Ohio State got that late touchdown. But that thing was super close going right down to the wire. And I think this year it's going to be even better because it's going to be on campus in Columbus. Columbus hosting another SEC team after the Buckeyes just routed Tennessee back in December. So another SEC team will get a crack at Ohio State. And this is really going to kick off the Arch Manning hype train. I shouldn't say it's going to kick it off because it's already been happening. It's the #1 topic of conversation in the offseason, and it will continue to be until the season starts and we really see what Arch Manning is. Because remember, he didn't get a whole lot of playing time last year, but he's already been crowned the next Heisman Trophy winner. He has already, by many, been crowned as the next national champion. Oh, well, Texas obviously is going to win it all this year because they've got Arch Manning at quarterback. And that's to be expected when your last name is Manning. But we really don't know how good this kid is. We'll get a good idea week 1 when Texas plays Ohio State. That is going to be an incredibly tough test on the road for a new quarterback who didn't play a whole lot last year, sitting behind Quinn Ewers. So Arch Manning will be out on the field, and people are going to be talking about this. This is going to be the big topic of conversation on ESPN and Fox Sports and Sports Talk all over the country is how will Arch hold up under the scrutiny of a big-time opening week matchup. Now, here's the thing about it, though. He may not be out there slinging the ball all over the field because you got to remember that Texas lost a couple of big-time wide receivers, big-time playmakers to the NFL. So Texas really is maybe going to be more reliant on their run game, at least early in the season. So you may see Arch Manning handing off a lot more than you expect in that first game. Ohio State, now they will be slinging the ball all over the place because they got Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver. Ohio State also has a former 5-star that is transferred in that's going to be playing quarterback for them this year. They got a big-time running back in C.J. Donaldson out of the portal from West Virginia. The Ohio State defense, though, is a little bit of a question mark. Only 3 starters back for the Buckeyes in their national championship team from last year. So obviously they have tried to fill those holes in the portal. It's kind of a similar story with Texas, really. Texas defense has some holes as well that they're trying to fill with additions from the transfer portal. So this could be a really high-scoring game. This could be kind of an offensive shootout, and that would be really fun, I think. week one. And the difference between now and college football from even 5 years ago, this is not any kind of elimination game. If you lose this game, it's not a huge deal. Hopefully the committee will even give you some credit for playing a game like this, for stepping out of the conference and playing a big-time opponent. Two blue blood college football teams going at it. That's the way it should be. And last year the committee kind of dropped the ball with that. They were looking more at record than schedule. I think they'll make the adjustment this year, and maybe the schedule and the difficulty of your schedule will be taken more into account. So whoever loses this game, like I said, is certainly not eliminated from anything, but it'll just give us a good idea of which one of these teams is maybe ready to step up and win a national championship, because Texas is probably going to be ranked number one in the country preseason. Ohio State is probably going to be ranked number 2 or 3, maybe 4. So this is a legit top 5 matchup, and whoever wins it, obviously, you're going to be looking at them and saying, yeah, that's a team that could probably win it all. And that's not the only great matchup week one offers. Alabama and Florida State, this may not end up being a great game, but just as far as an incredible dream matchup between two of the historically best programs in college football over the last 40 years or so, Florida State and Alabama. Now, the problem is Florida State got absolutely boat raced by Georgia in the Orange Bowl a couple of years ago and never really recovered. And they had a miserable season last year, one of the worst offenses in the country last year for Florida State. And so obviously improvements have been made in the offseason. They got a new quarterback coming in from Boston College. Florida State has an improved offensive line this year, but you don't expect that they're going to improve enough to really compete with Alabama week one, even though that is a home game for FSU and will be a great atmosphere. The Athlon magazine that I purchased last week has Florida State predicted to finish 7th in the ACC. They say overall they are the 45th best team in the country. Alabama is going to be a top 10 team when the preseason poll comes out. And Alabama will probably be a double-digit favorite here. I'd have to look at that line. They probably already are. And they've got 7 starters back on a defense that was pretty good last year. The question mark for Alabama, obviously, is at the quarterback position. Still not really sure who's going to be playing quarterback for the Crimson Tide when that game comes around. But a good offensive line for Alabama. And, of course, Ryan Williams, who just had a tremendous season last year for the Tide as a freshman. Made that big catch against Georgia late in the game. You may have blocked that out of your memory, Dog fans. And he was also like the youngest player to do everything last year because he was a true freshman. And every time he would do something, it was, oh, he's the youngest player to ever do that. He's going to be back, and he's going to be an electric player for Alabama this year. So as great as that matchup looks from a uniform perspective and an atmosphere perspective, I don't know that that's going to end up being a great game or a close game, but very intrigued by it. Now, this one I think is going to be very, very good. Again, we're continuing to look at week one and project maybe a little bit of what we're going to see in these top-tier matchups. LSU at Clemson. That's incredible. Again, as far as uniforms go, as far as atmosphere goes, that game's being played on campus at Clemson. It's going to be wild there at night and a legit top 10 matchup here. I've seen Clemson is ranked as high as number 1 in some of the preseason polls. They'll probably be somewhere around number 5. LSU is going to be right behind them at 7 or 8. And both teams are expected to make the college football playoff this year, and both teams are being given a good chance to win it all this year. So kind of like we talked about with Texas and Ohio State, whoever wins this game between LSU and Clemson, we're going to look at them and say, that's a legit contender right there. LSU signed a big-time portal class, and they had kind of a meh team last year. They went out, improved in every way. Garrett Nussmeier is their quarterback. He is going to be a legit Heisman candidate this year. LSU now has big-time weapons at wide receiver, running back, hoping their defense can play a little bit better. And these two teams are going to be a little bit similar in that Cade Klubnik is the quarterback for Clemson, also coming back and also expected to have a big year, also expected to be a Heisman candidate. So something's got to give here. We'll see which one of these quarterbacks that's getting a whole lot of hype in the offseason actually delivers in week one. But Clemson just has a whole lot of starters back. They had a pretty good team last year that won the ACC and made the college football playoff, even though they got in through kind of a loophole. I mean, they lost 3 games, and they were the only 3-loss team that made the playoff, but they had to be there because they were the ACC champion. So I'm telling you, week one, you're going to sit down. You're going to watch Ohio State and Texas at noon. You're going to watch Bama and Florida State at 3:30. You're going to watch the Dogs play at 3:30, obviously, against Marshall. And then you're going to finish your day with this incredible matchup between LSU and Clemson. And yeah, let's talk about the Georgia matchup against Marshall a little bit. Georgia's right now 38.5-point favorite in this game. I looked at it this morning. Obviously, we're not expecting this to be a really great game. If this is a nail biter, then something has gone terribly wrong. But this is a good opportunity for Coach Mike Bobo to beat back some of the criticism he's been getting over the past 9 months or so. This is a good opportunity for Georgia to come out with the keys to a brand new Ferrari and showcase what I think is going to be a much improved and a really, really good offense this year. With what Georgia was able to do in the transfer portal at wide receiver, getting Noah Thomas and Zachariah Branch from USC, and then Colby Young being back on the team this year. Colby had some really good spots early last season before he got into his troubles. But he's going to be back on the field and I think even better than before. So Georgia at wide receiver is really set. Georgia's got some great tight ends you already know about, Lawson Lucky and Oscar Delp. I think Gunner's going to be great at the quarterback position. And I think Nate Frazier is set to have a huge season at running back. The only question mark to me is the offensive line. I mean, it's not just me. Everybody's got these questions about the offensive line because it's going to be new and retooled, and we'll see if Coach Searles can get this offensive line ready to play early in the season. It's one thing to say, hey, they're going to improve and they're going to gel together as the season goes along, but how good will they be in those first 2 or 3 weeks? We'll see when Georgia takes the field against Marshall. But again, this is a good opportunity for Georgia and Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo to say, hey, this ain't last year. Defense is going to be really good. The offense is going to be really good. Special teams are going to be really good. And Georgia's going to have a tremendous season. And you can start by making everyone feel a little better, making everyone feel a little calmer, by going out and putting up a bunch of points against Marshall in game one. Other week one matchups that you're probably going to be really excited about here in the next 6 weeks or so. Auburn and Baylor. Auburn's a 2.5-point favorite, even though they're going on the road to play Baylor. That's going to be a good game. Tech's going to Colorado to play Coach Prime week one. And Georgia Tech's already a 4.5-point favorite in that game as Colorado is rebuilding a little bit from last year. And I'm telling you, if I have a hot take for you this week, it's that Tech might just be a team to watch out for in terms of if you're looking for somebody that might sneak into the college football playoff that you're not expecting, look at that Georgia Tech schedule. If they can go to Boulder and beat Colorado, they do have a game with Clemson, I think, week 3. But after that, that schedule's really manageable until Tech plays Georgia at the end of the year. And even if they did lose to Clemson and Georgia and went 10-2, you're still going to be in the conversation, I think, for backdooring your way into the college football playoff. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to hear some of that talk this year. Syracuse against Tennessee. Vols are an 11.5-point favorite there on a neutral field. We know Tennessee loves their neutral fields, and even better if it's indoors because it doesn't rain there. Notre Dame is a 1.5-point favorite against Miami. That's another big time week 1 matchup. You're going to have two teams there that are probably both in the top 10 preseason. The old Catholics versus convicts, if you will. And Notre Dame came close to winning a national title last year. They feel like they've got the goods to win the national title this year. And Miami, with Carson Beck at quarterback, feels like they have a college football playoff type team as well. So very excited about that. Now that is a Sunday game, week 1. Another Sunday game, week 1. SCAR, South Carolina, will start to make that campaign for the college football playoff. They almost got in last year, so they're thinking, okay, this year we're definitely going. They'll start that campaign against Virginia Tech, week 1. South Carolina, 7.5-point favorite. And if only because of the entertainment value of Bill Belichick and the situation with his girlfriend, I think a lot of people are going to tune in on Monday night on Labor Day, week 1, to see the North Carolina Tar Heels take on TCU. TCU, a 2.5-point favorite over the Heels, even though that game is being played in Chapel Hill. We will leave the football talk there. Boy, we're already 26 minutes in, so we'll have to hurry through the rest of the stuff. But I love talking season. I love getting excited about these big-time matchups and what we're going to see this college football season, which I think will end with Georgia back in the college football playoff. A team that may not be in the playoffs is the Atlanta Braves. Didn't want to talk much about the Braves because not much has changed, although, as Bob Uecker said in the movie Major League, in case you haven't noticed, the Braves have managed to win a few. Not even a few. They won 2 out of 3 from the Brewers in Milwaukee, which is a darn good start, if that is the start to anything that could turn this season around, because it's been pretty bad so far. Everybody not named Ronald Acuna Jr. is having a hard time. And guys like Eli White and Michael Harris just not hitting right now. And the Braves, I don't know, Verdugo, it's been really bad at the plate. But again, just won that series against Milwaukee, so maybe that's a jumping off point. And now you got 3 against the Colorado Rockies this weekend, who are the worst team in baseball. So maybe an opportunity at home, I don't know, to sweep the Rockies and get yourself back closer to that 500 mark at least. As far as the other things that are going on this weekend, and happy Father's Day weekend, by the way. Dads, I know you guys always have a lot to do. There's always a lot for dads as far as pressure and things that you feel like you got to do for your family. So take this weekend and celebrate the good job that you've done, dads and husbands. Happy Father's Day weekend, but with that brings the U.S. Open, which I watched a little of this morning. We're recording this on Thursday, and man, that's a tough course there at Oakmont. I don't know, man. The scores were not good this morning. I'll have to check back when I'm done and see if it's improved in the afternoon, but I kind of doubt it. It just impossible rough to get out of, and unlike the Masters, where it's like, oh, the golf course is so beautiful, it's very challenging, but it's also gorgeous. Oakmont, that ain't it, bro. This is not a beautiful golf course. It is a rugged slog, and seeing these guys grinding out there this morning just made me happy that I don't have to go do it. I'd probably shoot 200 if I tried to play there. But the U.S. Open is going to be great to watch this weekend. The NBA playoffs, I told you, Indiana. I mean, everybody crowned OKC before the series started. Oh, this is the best team we've seen in many, many years. Indiana, as Jock Peterson said about the Braves in 2021, we are those. I think Indiana might just be those this year, because Tyrese Halliburton, every time there's a clutch shot to be made, he's making it. And the Pacers are now up 2-1 on the Oklahoma City Thunder. NHL playoffs, the Panthers are leading Edmonton 2-1. They got a game tonight. And Atlanta United also has a game tonight as I record here on Thursday. They are playing New York City. New York City! And Atlanta United could desperately use a win and 3 points. Is there anything else that we're missing? Oh, the College World Series. Yeah, sad that the Diamond Dogs will not be participating, but the College World Series does start tomorrow in Omaha. What a surprise, though, with the teams that made their way to the College World Series. Last year, it was like 4 teams from the SEC, 4 teams from the ACC. That's it. There's your 8. This year, you got Oregon State in the field. You've got Murray State, who, after that shocking win of the Oxford Regional, we talked about that last week, then they go and beat Duke in the Super Regional. So Murray State's in the College World Series. Coastal Carolina's back in the College World Series. They won a national championship years ago and haven't been back since. They're back. Louisville, I mean, they're just obviously teams you weren't expecting to see when the field was announced a few weeks ago. You do still have LSU and Arkansas representing the SEC. So it'll be fun to watch some of those games this weekend. And we'll talk some more college football next week. We'll just keep talking season going until the Braves improve. And who knows when that'll be or if that will be. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Third and Manageable is a Sea&Sky production. I'm Walker, live from the palatial studios here in Western North Carolina. Again, on X at Walker Country, on Instagram at WalkerPower10, on Facebook, Jerry Arnold, and YouTube at Sea&Sky Productions. I will talk to you next week. Until then, as always, go Dogs!